Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
Underwater Nolan.
And you are listening to and or watching episode 276. This past week, Elon Musk taught a monkey to play video games.
I saw that. I actually know about this news this time.
With his brain.
With his brain.
That's
now,
scary to me.
To be clear, this isn't any kind of monkey. The specific breed is macaque. And I'm not kidding. That is the breed. I promise, and
It's
I'm pronouncing
macaque.
it correctly. No, it is not. I looked it up, Google Speak, and it told me.
Oh.
All right, so I'll just say that, let me give the full article. Neuralink, a company founded by Musk, is developing artificial intelligence-powered microchips to go into people's brains. But first, they're doing the responsible thing and the humane thing, and they're testing it on the wannabe humans, the macaques.
Right.
And so, in a video released a few days ago, we see Macaque playing video games, including
Not okay.
including Pong, and getting to the point where Pager is the name of the monkey, is
Thank you.
using exclusively brain signals to control the video game.
Well, right, but I mean, we use brain signals to control video games right now.
No, we use
It just goes through an interface in between.
So this scares me. Am I the only one?
Oh well,
I know-
I mean,
I know it's
they're like-
fascinating and a really good thing because the. Why is it a good thing? Okay, so if we could do it to humans and it's safe, then disabled people will be able to do things that they couldn't before.
like use their phone, play phone games,
Or many things. Just using your
The
brain.
worst
Play
thing
retro
I-
video games.
the worst
Now,
thing I.
Or
the world
listen
of
to this
retro
podcast.
video games is unlocked to paraplegics. Like, you
So
guys
that's
are
exciting, and all of that.
Yeah, we could get a bigger audience, is what we're
Yes,
looking
we
at.
could get more fans, but I've seen Planet of the Apes,
Right.
the original and the new one,
Oh yeah, we're screwed.
and that's kind of, I don't know. They need to
That's
calm
what
down.
you're worried
a little
about
bit over
here?
Yeah.
They didn't make the monkey smarter and aggressive.
It's the first
there. Monkeys
step.
are already very smart, Kenny. Very smart.
Don't get me wrong. We live in the future. There's some dystopian stuff going on. There's lots of reasons to be terrified. Monkeys playing video games are probably not at the top of that list.
So can I play GoldenEye with Macaque?
You can, and he'll beat you. It's slaps only though. All right, so like,
I love that
Deal
mode.
with you guys.
we're not doing anything wrong here, but go ahead.
Also,
What's wrong with you,
well,
Kenny?
I'm very surprised that you went with video game playing monkeys instead of new
Metroid?
world record broken for Super Mario Brothers.
Like for selling it? Oh, for the speedrun
No,
or selling it?
speed run any percent. They totaled new world record this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's also, Nolan, you had to have seen the 2.5D remake of Metroid, Super Metroid?
I did not actually.
Yeah, big deal. Fan made. Sorry, not but really good. I have no details about that. I'm talking about Macaque this week because it is massive.
Stop.
That was
It was
my
sort
focus,
of funny
too.
the first time. It's not a good.
I
joke.
don't know. Kenny, you're the one that's making this weird. Some might say that whatever way you spin it, we are role-playing God with this funky monkey situation, this charade baboon, if you will. Which charade baboon sure sounds like our retro game of the week.
Jade Cocoon.
Jade Cocoon, story of the Temamayu.
Overview.
Jade Cocoon is a JRPG, I don't know what I was trying to do there, developed by Genki exclusively for the PlayStation. This came out in 1998, which was my prime RPG gaming days. I was a young teen, and I was enjoying for the first time fully my home console, the PlayStation, and was exploring all of the wonderful typically at the time Square or Square Enix, I don't know if they had merged yet, RPGs, JRPGs, and it was the most delightful era of my gaming experience.
See, that was me with the N64.
N64, right?
Yes,
And
that was the year.
Kenny, were you gaming at this time? What were you doing with your life?
I'm pretty sure I already had an 8 to 5.
You definitely did.
Yeah, PlayStation was still in the good
You were
years,
on your
not
PC.
the prime years.
You're on your PC.
There were some Final Fantasy competitors on the PlayStation. I don't know about true competitors, but there were some other RPGs, JRPGs that came out during the time. This is one of those, and man, were they trying something ambitious? Because Genki, I looked into them just a little bit. This was their first RPG. They did some racers before this.
Yeah. That's
Really?
a big jump. That's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they probably did what a lot of people do and saw success in one area, like other people were being successful, and they were like, we can do that, or let's hop on that, or whatever.
Or someone else contacted them and was like, y'all make games. We have an idea.
I don't know. Now, I said RPG, and it is an RPG, but it is also a virtual pet management simulator.
It's Pokemon.
It's
Literally.
Pokemon.
It's a monster breeder.
So it's Monster Rancher.
Is Monster Rancher a breeding game?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Well, you're actually not breeding them, you're raising them.
Same.
You
same
don't put
thing.
That's
two
not the
monsters in the barn, close the door, and come back in the morning.
Are you
to see
sure
if
you
got a
don't do
baby.
that?
I'm pretty sure you do.
You
You do it in the new ones.
Like
You
thi-
might.
this one, it's even less that because they're consumed. Like this is more monster combo evolution than it is monster reproduction.
There are Pokeballs.
Combo evolution. Do something with the water you're holding.
I'm
pour it
about
on
to
your
drink it, but I had
face.
things to say first.
So it is Pokemon-esque, Pokemon-like in the sense that you are fighting and collecting these minions, these monsters, and then you are using them in battle. We'll talk about those specifics later. I want to give you a little bit of the plot here because there is a lot, and I'm not going to tell you all of it. In fact, I did the first play this week, and we try to keep our first plays around 8 to 12 minutes. That's a good sweet spot. I did editing and cutting, and it was a 20-minute first play just to get to a little bit of gameplay, which really translated to almost an hour of gameplay before I
Yeah.
got to really do much.
I feel like you were at least at 45 minutes. Like when I played through, it was probably about 45 minutes of play when I stopped at the place where your first play stopped.
If Kenny would have done this first play, he would have
You would-
skipped an hour, but
Everything.
I would have been so frustrated. And not everything is skippable either here.
Right.
And so it would have been,
Well,
I would have been angsty.
for those kids in 1998 that loved stories in their JRPGs, you got a lot of it here.
At this point, you just go read a book.
Levant is the protagonist, the main character, and I say those things lightly because he doesn't say a word. He is a silent protagonist, and he is the village's new cocoon master. It is a solitary profession. It is a dangerous one. Following the footsteps of his lost father, he becomes the village's new cocoon master, and everything is fine until the Oni Boo Boo show up and torment the town.
that's
Till
a
Honey Boo Boo attacks.
Honey Boo
that's
Boo.
a diabolical name for an enemy. I'm scared.
Hold on,
But
just to be
Honey
clear,
Boo
it's
Boo?
it's not Honey Boo Boo. It's the Oni Boo Boo.
It's Honey
everything
Boo
in this game sounds like something else.
Okay,
You go
but
out with you marry a girl named your boo. Like, come on.
my
boo?
My boo.
oh gosh, I
right.
didn't even catch that. Okay, so everyone then falls asleep because of the Oni Boo Boo attack,
Of
and
course.
you're not asleep, and the key people in the village that you need to
Yeah.
have for the plot. And
Convenient.
you are sent into the dangerous forest in order to collect the single calabash herb that will awaken everyone in the village. That's how it begins. But the story starts with this deep, rich, biblical proportion type backstory that is brought up time and time again in this world. They really They really put in a lot of story into this video game.
And you're forgiven for a 20-minute first play because the story there is almost the gameplay. With these JRPGs, especially in 98, that's what this was. It's hours and hours of a game, but half of it is reading and listening and watching. So I was entertained. I liked watching your commentary on some of the text and dialogue.
I feel like there's a middle ground there where you can still let the person have some gameplay or make some dialogue choices and still immerse in the story, but not make it so passive.
Yeah.
And it's certainly my preference when they try and let you do that. This is very much like lots of just watching.
Put the controller down, yeah.
Little sort of segments of action with these, game elements worked into it.
Gameplay.
I was immediately impressed when I launched this game.
Because you heard the PlayStation startup?
Like immediately?
Immediately. I mean, it starts with the PlayStation startup.
It worked.
No.
I turned a game on.
Okay.
I know what you were going to say.
You pedantic fool. With the music and the animation and the voice acting and the visuals in game, outside of the game, in the game, they're a little bit more rocky. Kenny, please follow me. Do you know the word pedantic? Do you know the word...
Give me more words.
Other words? You are those things because in the traditional game, when you're actually controlling it, it looks less good, but it still looks like a 1998 JRPG.
Correct.
Okay, so all of those things looked good. And I just want to go straight into saying the first sign that there was something bad here, or that things weren't all the way thought out, or and it caught me in the first play was the tank controls. I don't know if we're gonna go there right away, but
Let's.
That was my
as well.
first sign. That was my first sign that I was like, why? And for those of you that don't know, just to explain, tank controls is not where up is up and down is down and left is left. It's just where left and right only turn your character around in that direction.
Yep.
And then up moves forward and down moves back at all times.
And if you want to really run, you hold down a button.
Triangle.
So that's where the racing thing makes sense to me. They were erasing the developer before. And they were like, green means go. There's a green button. Hold it down to run.
That's really funny.
What? Now, this has been used in like Resident Evil. So like the original Resident Evil controls, it works because you're usually in a confined space and the camera angle is constantly shifting. And so you kind of just are like, wherever I'm facing, I'm going to go.
But that's same here.
Yes.
Define
for sure,
camera
yes.
positions.
Yes. So I wonder if they were just like, oh, that's a popular way to like control a 3D environment. Because we're still new here. Like they're still trying to learn this 3D world, the new graphics, how to control characters. And it just is hard to go back to. I think maybe at the time people were like, sure, but I hate it. I hate it, and I still hate it after playing the game for hours this week.
Thankfully, if you played for hours, you didn't have to use it much, because 70% of your time was just watching cutscenes.
True.
Now, here's the thing. I don't love tank controls. I don't think anybody loves tank controls, but I think that...
Tank controls?
I think so, because when you drive a tank?
Yeah.
I think it's like that. It's controlled like that.
I
So
drive tanks all the
They
time.
give you a D-pad and they just let you go to town.
so I think, however, with having tank controls, bad idea, they implemented it fairly well. Because with that triangle button and with the automatic course correction that Levant would have in a system, I don't know if y'all noticed, but when you're running through the forest, or that's really all you get to run through. You can't run through your town. It's just kind of fast travel. But in the forest, when you're running and he hits a wall, he doesn't stop. He'll turn in the direction that you were going and pretty much follow the path. And so it
That's
wasn't
kind of advanced, yeah.
It wasn't the most frustrating that tank controls can be.
Yeah.
if you didn't have that button on the other side, the mobility button on the right hand,
Yes.
it would have been the worst game I'd ever played. And I mean, maybe that's hyperbole. But it would have been really, really frustrating. That saved it for me, though. It was still annoying, but once you sort of accepted that this is an old game and they made a bad choice, or at least one bad choice, it got a lot better with the mobility, because you could just sort of turn a little and move forward and turn, and then sort of,
Another thing before we get into like the battle system, because that's usually a big difference between JRPGs, and this one's definitely different. Dustin, I had the same reaction as yours in your first play. When you finally get control, you are presented with a menu, and to go throughout your hometown, instead of walking to the destination, you fast travel, which is so weird. I can't name any other game ever that has done that. I'm wondering if they didn't have resources to build out an environment for a town, or if I think you mentioned they want the pacing to stay on this plot, so maybe they just force you into the next dialogue option. I thought that was so bizarre.
It was weird, but it kind of worked here, because they're going with these pre-rendered backgrounds that they're good about giving you a ton of, and good about, changing the view on and the whole thing. For towns where you're just jumping around and having interaction, the sort of walking between places, especially if you're not one of those games where there's going to be hidden stuff and stuff you need to explore, or, if you're just moving from like house to house, there really isn't any point. And so I didn't mind that. I felt like it kind of fit with the vibe they were going for.
I think they they created the tank controls first, realized that they hated that, and they're like, all right, let's
minimize.
That's a good point, because even the walking you end up doing like in the forest and just later in the game gets old. So that's probably a good point. They were like, that's too much on the player.
Yeah. Okay, so the gameplay structure is as follows. After you watch the 3-hour movie to begin with, you go into a forest, and that is the game. It's different forests that you go through, that you traverse through, that have these minions, these monsters, these divine beasts, divine creatures. What are they called? They're minions, but divine something. And you walk through these forests, seeing those creatures on the screen. So it's not like Final Fantasy where it is random encounters.
Right.
You see them, and you can either avoid them, or try to avoid them, or fight them. And when you fight them, your goal is to bring down their health, capture them with an empty cocoon, and then you take those Pokeballs, if you will, to your wife, who you married in the 3-hour cutscene at the beginning of the game.
In like the first 18 seconds of the game. They're like, hey, you're a hero. Here's a bunch of backstory, and now you're getting married.
I love it when you explain it that way, because it's so absurd, but that's exactly what happens.
My boo then will purify those monsters, so that they become usable for you, to where you can either then merge them with one another or to upgrade them. And then you can take 3 at a time and use them in battle, which they quickly, after the first force, surpass your strength and ability. So, because you can fight as Levant, but you are then using a combination of those 3 monsters to fight in battle, to capture more of these minions, to progress through the rest of the story.
Yes. You explained that so much better than I would have been able to explain that. And it's like, yes, you can use Levant's like attack, but it is so terrible in comparison to what these things end up becoming. And it's like, okay, that's the battle system, is capturing Pokemon and then turning them into power-ups, essentially, that you can fight with. And I don't know how I feel about it, even after playing.
But saying just turning them into something doesn't really do it justice, because as you're combining these things, you're combining a whole bunch of different traits that they have. You're combining the look of the monsters. You're combining the elements that the monsters have that are going to help define what the next monster you make looks like. You're combining the elemental makeup of these monsters to define what the elemental sort of affiliation of the next monster is going to be and how that specializes. Based on that, you're opening yourself up to specific skills or traits that your new monster may or may not have. There's a ton going on here, and thankfully the game does a relatively good job of showing you all of those things. I've seen a lot of these games where it's just like you got to like figure out the hidden system or just kind of gamble, and you're like, that one looks cool and that one looks cool, let's combine them and see what happens, and it could be great or terrible. But they do a good job of sort of showing you like, here's the direction of the outcome of what you're going to combine, and most of the things are pretty logical too. You know, your stat scaling, though it takes some sort of learning, but there's normal sort of synergies. If you if you combine two fire monsters, you're going to get a fire monster, so on.
Well, those elements are what's key. Obviously, all the stats are important. The most important thing is how they look. You know, you want a cool looking monster. Yeah. But the second most important thing are those elements, because you've got 4 different elements: fire, water, earth, and air. Hey,
Airbender.
It's an avatar, yeah. Which I just started book 2.
Books?
No, that's what the seasons are called in Avatar: The Last
I thought
Airbender.
you were talking about like.
I just started season 2. Anyways, and it's rock paper scissors, and so like on which ones, like earth beats fire, I think. No, water. Earth beats water. Water beats fire. Fire beats wind. Wind beats earth. It's cyclical, like that. And so you're using their abilities in a rock paper scissors kind of battle to fight the other minions.
Yes, which translates well. I think that a element system like that is intuitive and easy to pick up. I agree with Kenny in that sense that there's not too much to explain. I do think when the first trip back to Mabu, your boo, that the menuing in when you're spinning the creatures and you're having to like look at stats and stuff does take a minute to like learn and decide what you're doing. But you can experiment, and I don't think you can screw yourself over. Like you can always just try again. So
it's pretty forgiving. You're not gonna like make something completely unusable. You can not be optimal, or you can make something that's uglier than what you find. But if you're like doing a normal gameplay and at least trying to be somewhat intelligent about the choices you're making, it's not like this thing's not going to work.
Well, and there's a lot of minions out there, so like you can find new minions and then combine them later, so like there's always something to do. But I think that merging system is very robust in this game. In fact, I think that I don't understand math, but I think that there's an infinite amount of combinations that can be made.
Infinite? Kenny shakes his head no.
I mean, it's impossible for there to be an infinite number of combinations.
If you can't get to the end of it.
The end is still there.
Is it though?
Yes.
Because I don't know, because it's there are so many different combinations between the visuals and every single stat and the elements, all of that. However, I just merged until I had a strong monster and then used it moving forward and didn't revisit the merging system. Like that's all that I'm going to do.
How far did you get? Do you know?
I mean, not far, second force.
Right. So I'm wondering if like there's a balance somewhere in the plot or in the game that's like, okay, this one's no longer going to work because of some sort of elemental weakness of a boss or something. Like
I think as long as you're keeping a couple varieties there, you may run into a tough boss where your favorite Pokemon isn't equipped because he's sort of the hard counter to him, but then you've got another one in your pocket. Like,
right. As long as you're planning ahead, you'll be fine for the most part. The battle system that annoying, or that back and forth, was really annoying to me because, again, you start with Levant. It's not like Pokemon. I wish it was where Levant instantly throws out his first minion that he has for battle. You start every battle as Levant, and then you have to throw out which monster you want to use. And then to use an item, you have to go back to Levant to use those items, but he quickly becomes so much weaker than everybody else, and his health only gradually increases because the experience system isn't about leveling up Levant, it's about leveling up his capture level. So it's only what he's able to capture, not his like physical stats or anything like that. So it's so easy to die so quickly when you're just trying to throw a health pot on one of your minions.
So a couple things on that. The capture level being the focus rather than Levant getting stronger is lore friendly, because that first tutorial boss is like making fun of you for being a weak human, which you are. And then it's like you have to rely on these powerful beasts. That's the world that the game is in. But the quality of life of that is so stupid. I don't know if the mechanic of you starting as Levant every time was so that if you wanted to capture it was easier and you don't have to like go back and forth. But you could have simply just thrown out the first in your lineup or whatever, your Pokemon, and then done actions from there. There's no point in having to have like a separate action list or like having to put it away in order to move or use items and do other things. So
jumping back and forth into him was certainly annoying. It was just a bunch of extra steps you didn't need to take, and some risk there that didn't need to happen, and they definitely could have quality of life that a little bit.
This whole game is about extra steps, because with every single one of those extra steps, there's animations to watch, and they add up, dude. If you, thankfully, in the menu, if y'all didn't recognize, you've got an option. I found someone in Discord this week pointed it out. I think Garlisle, you can turn off some of those animations, because anytime, like for example, to take one of those minions back to my boo and have her turn into a usable Pokemon, you have to like, there's an animation to give her the animal, an animation for her to spin it or whatever. She has to pray, an animation for it to come back to, like there's an animation for every single step along the way.
How long is this game? Do we know?
Yes.
Please tell me. It's not?
It's not long.
Okay then. Wait a minute. That's good.
Well, it actually got a lot of flack because it wasn't as long as a lot of the other JRPGs during this time.
Okay.
Right, when your competitors are 20 to 30 hours of gameplay, and this one's 8 to 10.
Tell me the hours, and I'll tell you why they're brilliant.
12 hours is the main story.
Wow. Okay. So, back to how you started this whole thing. You were impressed by the presentation of this game in every facet, right? Or almost every facet. So they were focused on presentation, and so they didn't feel the need to have like a super long game. And there are grindy parts, I'm sure. I didn't get far either.
I don't think it's because I think that's why it's shorter too, because in traditional JRPGs you're grinding.
I'm fine with that.
Like those 4 forests and then like a final forest, I think is the whole game.
You like that?
Yeah, sure. Because can you imagine a 30-hour
12 hours?
No.
I would like 12 hours if it was robust and you had 12 hours of like really intricate gameplay, even if it's all this combining of your critters. But when animations are filling 30% of your time, and
immersion.
Lore stuff is filling 70% of your time, and menuing is filling 10% of your time.
It's immersion.
Math has no longer even worked. You've used more time than you have. We've broken the laws of physics, and now no one exists.
We've already mentioned this game goes to infinity and beyond. There is
infinity.
No
well, because there is a new game plus type thing. So after you beat the game, you go into the Eternal Corridor, which consists of a near infinite. Kenny, near infinite. Is that better for you?
Much better.
Near infinite area where new monsters that were unavailable in the original or in the first part of the game can be found in this area, and the rooms are randomly generated, each one that you go into, and new monsters become more and more difficult.
I will buy that the Eternal Corridor may be an infinite experience. I mean, like, not actually. At some point, the console that you're playing the game on will, succumb to
that doesn't make
time limits.
Not infinite.
But yes, that doesn't mean there's an infinite combination of monsters you can make. Regardless, I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know, the ARPG fan in me, the MMO RPG fan of me likes the idea of them putting in an in game here. A lot of times you have sort of this story and then you shelve it. You put it back on your PlayStation shelf and you have nothing to do. And so I don't know if it's because they recognized it was a relatively short game and they were trying to amend that. I don't know if it was because they just thought it was interesting. But the idea of like get to the end of the game and then have a challenge mode that goes on for a long time and unlock some like cool customization skin kind of stuff was actually a really, really cool feature for me. It intrigued me.
Some might say that it is unfinished, that they had this other idea that wasn't fully fleshed out, and so they just made it an eternal corridor at that part. Like, it's like they had a second half of the game, they didn't have time to get to it, so they just turned it into a completely self-replicating endless room of possibilities. I don't know.
Aged.
Studio Ghibli.
Well, that's close.
That's close.
Sort of.
I got your attention. So this is actually big because a lot of people in our Discord are fans of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
Which is a company that creates beautiful anime movies, films. It's not even anime. You can't even call it that. It's just art. It's beautiful. Miyazaki? Wow. If that's not his name, I'll get in so much trouble. I think that's his name. Is like famous for this, and they actually partnered with them for the character faces and the artwork for this game, which is super unique, and it shows. I think they're great. Now, Dustin, you did mention that it gets kind of rough in game because
it's more polygonal.
Yes,
polygonal.
Yes, but the actual like faces with the text and in menus, they look fabulous. They're
well,
great.
and the cutscenes are absolutely stunning. Like
They're
when
cinematic.
they go into the full motion cinematic, like those are those are straight from like ripped from a Studio Ghibli film or animation.
The demons coming over the mountains was pretty sick. It was scary.
Yeah.
Like,
and the in game is relatively beautiful too. They recognized the limitations here and decided, I mean, we mentioned this already, but decided to go pre-rendered 2D for all your backgrounds. But that allowed them to do some really, really beautiful environments.
The Legend of Dragoon, we played it on the podcast. Did we? No. I played it on our 24-hour live stream, which we should do again. But
never again am I gonna do that.
It was so much fun. The Legend of Dragoon is one of my underrated JRPGs, from around this time, and they too have these pre-rendered. I mean, Final Fantasy VII had pre-rendered backgrounds as well, and so you can do a lot here with those pre-rendered backgrounds. They had here over 600 pre-rendered backgrounds.
Golly. Over
600. That's a lot. They gave you so much, and they're all very, very pretty.
Yeah, of course, and fit the tone. Like of this forest, like these people worship beasts and nature, and it all makes sense with that. Like it all, if that kind of thing's not your vibe, which is not my first choice, then you might not like it. But it's just done so well, and I'm wondering, like, what other games did they maybe partner with studios, or developers to like make artwork for, if any?
Oh, Ghibli?
That's like a big deal, yeah, because they're a huge name, and we're a huge name back then too.
I don't know. But what I do know is that the voice acting was another thing that quickly took me by surprise. I think people are going to say it's bad, and a lot of it probably is.
It's not.
But that they had voice acting for almost every single line, even side things.
For all the like big story dialogue.
And
there were
other
definitely
parts.
Well, yeah, there were definitely some things that didn't. You found some things that were just text scattered throughout. And funnily, sure, I'm gonna.
I think it's just
word.
funny enough.
I don't care. Words. I give up on words. The fact that you're able to custom name your character, but then the names never get said, even though they stick them into the text, was kind of humorous to me.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I on my first play, I added the name Levant anytime that someone said it.
Every time, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can't. I mean, you can't do that because then you could put in any name. You could put in like the actual name, word for the kind of monkey that has the
Right.
brain implant.
Well, and like, just you literally couldn't do that. What are you gonna do? Record the user saying it? Like,
Saying
record every
10,000?
possible, all infinite combinations of words.
Yeah.
Let them take any two words and combine them into another word and make it as part of the game. Uh, it it made it harder to have a silent protagonist having all of the text though, because everyone is speaking and you're not. They had to do weird things like have random characters suddenly show up and like give you another perspective out of nowhere, and so the pre-done voices with the silent protagonist was a little strange to me. I know you can pull it off, but it was.
They're good. I think if someone said that the voice acting is bad, I'd be like, "You're capping," because it's fine. Like,
I thought it was good.
Go play Sonic if you think that these are bad voice actors, because like I really like that. Again, focus on presentation. Like, they really wanted you to be in this world, and the voice acting definitely helps that.
Yes, and I just saw the amount of voice acting that they did. 1998, people didn't have fully voice acted video games for the most part.
Like the conversations with like your mother in the house, like after a cutscene, you go into that and like talk to her. That shouldn't be voice acted, but it was.
Right. Now, I will say it slowed things down. You could speed through it, and Kenny for sure did all throughout the week. But even I wanted to because of how slow actually the dialogue lines were. And so I too was wanting to mash X from time to time, which takes away. So it's kind of like this give and take. Like I think it's good and it's fun and it's innovative for this time, but then it's got some downside to it as well.
Sure. But
the music,
decent.
I thought the music was fantastic, but repetitive.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
me.
Repetitive.
I loved it. I wanted a little bit more variety, but I found myself really like vibing to the music.
Yeah,
like, hard.
I think it really fits what it's going for. I think they made some weird choices again, which is just the overarching theme for this game. I like beautiful music, battle music, right? But then when you are when you're trying to capture a Pokemon, he pulls out, Levant pulls out this flute and begins to play it, but the background music doesn't stop. So then you've got the flute music playing over the battle music. So right. And it doesn't sound good.
No.
And things like that happen from time to time that it's just like, man, they didn't think all the way through this.
I'll just say this. The Jade Cocoon, one Jade Cocoon track made it into our PlayStation playlist on YouTube. So it's okay. It fit. It fit.
Yeah.
I think there's some tracks in there that easily could have justified.
Could have for sure.
I enjoyed it. But yes, they made some weird choices with it, and it did get a little repetitive.
There is 2 sequels to Jade Cocoon. There is a mobile version, which is a direct sequel called Jade Cocoon Gaiden.
No thanks.
That came out in 1999. And then Jade Cocoon 2 for the PlayStation 2 in 2001.
What does Gaiden typically mean? Is it a prequel?
Kenny knows.
He's shaking his head no.
We played Final Fantasy Gaiden.
Prequel.
If you play
Ninja Gaiden.
And Ninja Gaiden.
Gaiden. If you play as his dad, LA Apparel or whatever.
LA Apparel?
That'd be kind of cool.
Reaper Cheek. What's his name?
Slap-a-cheek? Why? So what are you saying about his dad?
That'd be cool to play a game focused on his dad becoming a Cocoon Master.
A Cocoon Master, sure. Yeah. Maybe that's what the mobile version is. If you want a physical copy of Jade Cocoon for your PlayStation, it's going to be $32 used. Not too bad. It's going to be $140 brand new. So, is it worth it?
Nolan, you weren't as far off as I thought. Gaiden is Japanese word for like tale or side story. So it's like something anecdotal or like supplementary biography. And now I've read Google.
So then I want to play the game Ninja.
Yes.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Nolan.
Hi. Okay, Jade Cocoon fans, where you at? Raise your hands. Oh, look, no one's raising their hand.
Are these? Is that your notes? You have that line in your notes?
I kind of actually do. It's a no from me. I'll say up front, okay? Let me explain why. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, it is unique. It's very unique in this category of games. However, it's not fun. I do think the controls have a bit to do with that for me. I didn't love them. I didn't really get used to them. The capturing is cool. The combination is cool, but I don't know. I got really bored. And the story didn't grip me, and I think that's what they were banking on because the story was clearly deep and they focused a lot on it and wanted it to be really good, and I was just kind of like, meh. I didn't love the characters. I hated Liu or whatever stupid name
Supposed
is.
to, for sure.
Supposed to hate him, but like not in the sense that it was like there's going to be some redemption or I'm interested. Like I just hated all of that. So props for actually giving fans a waifu instead of having to come up with one yourself. You actually get one.
And
But
it's healthy marriage too. It's not
yeah.
like this centers on their struggles.
no, a great marriage. She helps you out in your story. Unique. I'll say it again, unique. But no way am I going to ever return to this game. I don't think you should play it. There are other JRPGs on the PS1 that are far better.
Well, that's one no. Beard, what do you say?
I also say no. Ultimately, I don't think I dislike this game as much as Nolan did, and I totally understand why it's got some big fans. I do. I'm sure it does. If the whole monster combo thing is an interesting mechanic to you, and if you're a fan of this style of animation and are willing to sort of immerse in the slow-paced story and forgive some of the quality of life things, I could see someone really enjoying this game.
That's a lot of things.
Definitely it's a lot of things. But yeah, there were just enough of those little hurdles in pacing and in like almost getting there with something interesting, but me not feeling like it was fully fleshed out. And with it not really feeling sort of synergistic, like it felt kind of hodgepodge. You know, you had this story stuff and then you had this like gameplay unique element tacked on it, but then some quality of life things that were just hiccups. And yeah, I feel like it's an okay game that I'm okay with people being intrigued by if they're specific fans of the components that make it up. But for like everyone, it's not one that I'm just like, yeah, man, everybody's got to go back and check out this game. Can't quite get there for me.
I'm going to give you...
I had an enjoyable time mostly.
I'm going to give you two analogies. One is this game is like the prettiest wrapped Christmas present under the Christmas tree. And it's either like that first package you grab because it's the biggest, it looks pretty, or you wait until the end. You save it till the end because you know it's going to be good. But inside, once you rip apart all the prettiness and get down to the actual thing, it's just a pair of socks.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
But
functional, but not fun.
But then they're really warm socks, and so you're like, okay, maybe this was good, but then they're warm because they're wool, and then they're itchy.
And they're wet.
Wet socks?
Yeah,
wet wool socks.
Wet wool socks. Okay, so that's my first analogy. The second is you might be a monkey of whatever breed you're choosing with a chip in your head that might be able to play video games and even beat us at Pong or other video games, but you'll never be one of us. You will never be a human no matter how hard you try.
Don't make them mad.
Like Jade Cocoon, It's trying to be this unique RPG experience, and in many ways it gets so close and has a lot of redeeming qualities. Monkeys are cute, but it's never going to live up to the other high quality JRPG games that it was competing against during this time. And so there's a reason why its name is not as popular as some of the others that it shared its time and console with. It is too slow. It saps away all the fun. And it is just too repetitive of a game, both musically and mechanically.
I have an important question. Am I the only one that realized this week that I can't spell the word cocoon?
You thought there were two C's in the middle?
Two C's, two O's.
No, I
two
definitely
N's.
thought there was an A somewhere in it.
Oh,
Like every time I started typing it, I typed CA.
A?
not me.
Yeah,
bro.
it's a cocoon. It's not a cocoon.
But that's like how I say naked sometimes because I'm from the South, but it's not naked. It's naked.
Well, guys.
Well, it confused me, and it enough that I felt like we had to derail the entire show to point it
Right.
out.
Not that we're off topic or anything, but
Oh,
Jade
yeah.
Cocoon, Story of the Tamamayu, which I don't really even know what a Tamamayu
Yeah,
is,
wait a minute. I forgot about the tagline.
is not New Game Plus certified. But what did you think? As always, we had many people write in. Only going to be able to read a few of those commentaries here today, but continue to send yours in, please.
Please.
Jafar said, I originally played this game as a teenager when I was in my play any RPG you can find phase.
Lamau.
It's a functional game that uses the pet management features that were ever so popular in the Pokemon/Tamagotchi era to mediocre effect. The story is so bland that I couldn't remember anything about it when it was picked this week, despite remembering playing pretty far into it. It's an okay game, but no NGP. It might be worth a look if you've played every other RPG on the PS1 and need something new, but it's severely outclassed by its peers.
You'll be 90 years old by then, but so yeah, sure. But they're right. The pet management capture thing was popping in that in the late 90s, and so maybe they were just like, let's make a game with it, and it just ended up being mediocre.
Garlisle said Jade Cocoon has all the pieces for success. A visually impressive world with a consistent theme. There's a fleshed out mythology and lore backing its tale. And most remarkably, there's a literally infinite monster fusion system where everything moves to the monster's looks are modular and changeable. That's something that is a dream for most monster raising RPG fans. So it's an absolute shame the game just doesn't live up to itself. The game plays at an unfortunately slow pace, leaving its early momentum feeling like it grinds to a halt the moment gameplay starts. The customization feels like it has surprisingly few meaningful or interesting results too, reducing everything to just a ball of stats made through busy work. And the game's easy enough to not really care. And while many silent protagonists are enjoyable, Levant's just soulless and bland. This game should have been engaging and immersive and awesome, but Jade Cocoon is sadly somehow less than the sum of all of its parts.
That was really well said.
Yeah,
It always is, guys. It always is. We've joked before, but maybe we should just stop and Garlisle should just take over NGP. At least the part here at the end. We don't always agree, but by the way, he's doing a Mega Man podcast and he loves Mega Man series. He loves Mega Man 3. We didn't give it our vote for New Game Plus status because I think me and Kenny in particular, I played through Mega Man 3 in Discord this past week and I beat it.
You did?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me?
Because
everybody, there are like 12 people in there with me.
Bro.
He couldn't get himself to play Jade Cocoon.
Okay,
so
I
he
think
went and played Mega
that
Man
is true.
3.
But Nolan, you were missing this week. You were MIA this week.
I'm still gonna be missing, guys. My life sucks right now. How did you like it? Did you change your mind?
Oh, wait, are we doing this right now?
No, but we need to at some point.
I don't know if I changed my mind, but I got much better at Mega Man when I realized how you play Mega Man is not how I was playing Mega Man.
Oh, we gotta revisit this. Continue. That's awesome. Okay.
Thank you, Garlisle. All right, Lieutenant Pat X said a flute. Usually the only thing one catches is a pair of fists from annoyed relatives when played at family fests.
Yikes, what happened to you?
And Jade Cocoon. Also, why did you take a flute to family
Can't
fests?
bust out the recorder?
In Jade Cocoon, this musical device is used to become the best there ever was, but it stops where other role-playing games really start. The story seems unfinished, and the plot in general is quite unsatisfactory. The pale main character makes it hard to form a bond or really feel for him. Still, Jade Cocoon isn't bad. The breeding mechanics are solid, the design is consistent from start to finish, and the atmosphere is unusually dense. Due to the extremely entertaining, badly performed voice output and the numerous background information about monsters, lore, etc., it can be quite captivating. If you like to try tons of different monster breeds, this is the place for you. But I give it no NGP+. The sequel was miles better.
I am confused.
Yeah. Well,
It is a bad
no,
game, though. You're wrong.
This one's due for a remake.
No, it is not. No, it's not.
A rethink, a remaster.
not.
I forget all the terms.
Leave it.
It's got a lot of elements. Someone needs to do it right.
No.
play Pokemon and then play Monster Rancher 2 back to back, and then you'll get this
and Final
experience.
Fantasy.
And then Final Fantasy for the story. And then finally, Clint. Clint said, I beat the game.
Yeah, 12
Wow.
hours.
Heavy reliance on speed boosting made it a rather pleasant experience, but without those, the game falters under its slow animations. The story actually had some really good moments and represented a surprisingly healthy view of marriage through the characters of Levant and Maibu. Still, by the way, we're not pronouncing that correctly, just so y'all know. Still not a game I would recommend, but not anywhere near the worst game I've played alongside the podcast.
No.
The Post game is a pretty fun series of dungeons that scale and level up to level 26, which allows you to run through and practice all the skills you acquired throughout the main game. Seeing as your minions' health and recover and recover health after battle, it's a really fun little post-game segment you can use to just enjoy the combat of the game, which really opened up in the late game. We didn't beat it. We're not going to beat it, so we'll never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still intrigued by the thought there, but I don't think it was enough to make the game.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for sending in your thoughts on the retro game of the week. You can do that each and every week to ngppodcast@gmail.com or join us in Discord. There's a commentaries channel there where you can submit your thoughts, and we'd love to include them as a part of our episode next week. But for now, we're not going to randomly select from our massive Retro Master list. In fact, we're going to do our very infrequent, smallest randomization pool yet. There are a minimal amount of games in here from our producers because it is time again for a producer pool.
We need like a DK wrap for producer pools. I'll get on writing that.
One of you creators create that because now we have a soundbite for Patreon pool, but we need something different for producer pool.
Right.
All right.
But small list, did they double up a lot or?
Not a lot. Here are some of the games, okay?
Okay.
We've got Super Metroid. We've got a couple of those, actually.
Wow. We haven't played.
We've got a couple Lord of the Rings games.
I love those games.
Interesting.
We've got Monster Hunter, which we just played that, I feel like. We've got a couple of Lufia 2. Do y'all know anything about that? Super Nintendo?
It's a JRPG on the SNES.
It's what you clean your body with in the shower.
In the shower, yeah.
Yeah, that is hilarious. We've got a game called Black and White, Dragon Warrior 4, Paper Mario, Final Fantasy X, which 10. Sorry, wow.
Okay, so
Final
a lot
Fantasy
of
10.
RPGs.
Yeah, so those are some of the games that are in this small list from that producer pool list. We are randomizing now. Well, hold on. Before we do, we have gotten games on the couple of producer pools. I think we got one of the key Legend of Zelda games. I don't remember if it wasn't Wind Waker because we played that with someone. So it was Ocarina of Time, I think.
Oh, it was.
So like these are always big. So now randomizing now. We are going to be playing a barely retro game.
Okay.
That came out on October 18th of the year 2005 for the PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2.
Wow. Just snuck in our 15-year mark.
Developed by Japan Studio and Team Ico and published by Sony Computer Entertainment.
Wow.
The game is about a young man named Wander who enters a forbidden land, must travel across the vast expanse of the land on horseback and defeat 16 massive beings known simply as Colossi. we are going to be playing for the first time, for me for the first time, and I know that I've always would have loved this game, a game called Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay, you understand how big the fan base is for this? Big, maybe not the right word, but
It's
passionate.
colossal.
It's
Hey.
This is like a Dark Souls kind of vibe. Boss fights, epic boss fights.
Yeah,
it's gonna be impressive.
that's what it is.
It's
epic
impressive.
boss fight to epic boss fight, and
Yes.
they remade this game, I believe, in 2018.
Think so?
We're not playing that. We're playing the 2005 PlayStation 2 Shadow of the Colossus, submitted by one of our producers, Austin Carlson. Austin Carlson. So a big thank you, Austin, for your submission, and for all of you other producers for supporting us at this top tier level. We're glad that we could play a game along with you this week.
Yeah.
Grab a copy of Shadow of the Colossus and play it along with us this week.
Also, join us in our Discord server. You can connect with our community, you can connect with us, and hang out in some of the new channels that we've created in the past couple weeks. We got hobby channels, we got retro finds if you collect games, we've got other stuff. So join us there. Go to ngppodcast.com and click join us in Discord to get chatting.
I'll be hanging out in other stuff with our producers like Amarlian, Austin, Ben, Bethany Fox, Bro Jim, Carrie, Dan the Man, Francesca, Corey, Maxima, Secret Duck of Evermore, Shauna, Unbelievable, William, and Zion. Those proceedings in that channel will be overseen by our director level supporters, Antonin, Garlisle, and Wardonis. And I want to say a big thank you to our newest patrons, Brakovich and Indar. Thank you guys
Wigan?
so much.
Indar.
Wigan. This is not Indar. Don't get so hyped.
Can I name my
appreciate
son
you
Indar?
Guys. You certainly can.
And my daughter Valentine?
No.
If you want, you're allowed to do anything.
Thank you.
Within reason. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you want to be a part of future Patreon pools, join these folks and check out how on patreon.com.
You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Lots of content going up. We're just the content queens, getting it out all the time.
Yes.
For your listening ears and watching eyes. You can listen directly to our podcast on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed so that you can get the first, so that you can be the first to check out new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. This episode was edited and produced by our good friend Tom Tate. Join us next week as we play Shadow of the Colossus. Until then, I'm still Dustin.
I'm Kenny.
I'm Nolan.
And this has been New Game Plus.